Eric, absolutely happy to be with you. And I'd love you to tell us a little bit about SpringWorks and what you do, but also a little bit about the uniqueness and challenges and really the scenario that you have there that made you make the decision to put these key pillars of data in place so early in the lifetime of SpringWorks.
Sure. Thanks, Tim. It's a pleasure to be with you. So, SpringWorks is a pre-commercial biopharmaceutical company, and we're in the process of building out our enterprise systems to be able to support the vision and the plans that we have as a company going forward. Fundamental to those systems is our data platform. We have made a strategic decision that data and our data platform is fundamental to what we do as a company, and that it's important to have the power of a modern data platform and the capabilities that go along with that to drive really everything that we do as a business. And fundamental to any good data platform is having clean, harmonized, enriched data to be able to act upon. And as a result, one of the main pillar technologies that we have is CluedIn, which really serves as our master data management platform, as well as the major component of our customer data platform. In addition to the kind of traditional master data like product master data and others, really for us, a big part of our focus is really on that customer data, healthcare providers, as well as healthcare organizations.
SpringWorks has had the fortune of very early on in its lifetime having everyone from the C-level all the way down to operational teams invest early in data. And in a way, what I've seen at SpringWorks, closely working within between the different teams, is that setting that foundation, that those pillars in place very early, is something not a lot of other companies get to do. A lot of other companies will start to put in their data foundation only after 20, 30 years into business and realizing they built up a nice 15, 20, 30 years of this technical data debt. By SpringWorks and your team putting in those foundational pillars so early, what have you and what do you think will continue to be some of the big opportunities and positives that come out of that early investment that you've done there at SpringWorks?
One way to look at that is to think about the pharmaceutical industry as a whole. And I think it's accepted that maybe pharmaceutical companies are a little bit behind the curve when it comes to digital transformation. And not surprisingly, the pandemic was one of the things that brought that to light. The very traditional model of having sales or field representatives go in person to meet with doctors and other healthcare professionals really went out the window during the pandemic. And so a lot of companies are scrambling or have been scrambling in order to build the core capabilities that are necessary to be able to operate in the digital world that we have today. Well, we have the benefit of, as a new company, of being able to learn from that and being able to plan from the start to be able to go into our marketplace with that perspective of I hesitate to call it a digital transformation because for us it's really digital first, right? We don't have that baggage of having done things differently previously and now having to change them. Just as you're saying, from a master data management perspective, hopefully we're avoiding that pain of 10, 20 years or a couple of decades of dirty or difficult master data and then having to come back and cleanse that. We're really trying to do that up front. One of the values actually that we have at SpringWorks is to think deeply and act quickly. And I think this is one of those areas where hopefully thinking deeply has allowed us to plan ahead to be able to anticipate these things. Because really everything is driven by clean, accurate data. And in a world, the type of world that we live in today, where that is constantly changing, we need systems that can adapt and be both flexible and powerful to engage with different sources of data and be able to process and transform that data in a way that allows us to always have as clean and accurate a perspective as we can on the entities who we're partnering with and working with.
there's so many good talking points there. Just as a simple example, recently coming back from a data analytics event, the theme of the keynotes was unpredictable change. In that change is the only thing that businesses should expect, but you actually won't know what's coming. So having that foundation that, in essence, from what it sounds like, Eric, things could change tomorrow and your foundation will pivot with it and it'll change the next day. And this won't be this huge change management job because you've built with this unpredictable change in mind, which is pretty exciting for SpringWorks, but also pretty exciting for anyone else listening to your story right now. You've also, talked about things like modernization and, always working with, technologies that's thinking about, how can we future proof for the next 10 to 15 years? If we look at some of your other technology stack, for example, going with Snowflake as your provider, some of these platforms are built on cloud, they're built on agility, they're built on automation. And Eric, I mean, you are a veteran of this industry. You've been in the IT industry for quite a while, and this is not your first rodeo. You've done this before. In fact, MDM is something that you've done before as well. And what I'm intrigued to really discover and talk through is, you've used these, what I call traditional MDM approaches before. What do you think has changed in the marketplace for MDM to make it that not only did you not think, I'll just work with the MDM vendors I've worked with in the past, because I mean, I guess without putting words in your mouth, Eric, really, if we talk about things like automation and agility and cloud, these aren't keywords you usually associate with MDM. So talk us through your approach of what modern MDMs you needed to cater for this potential unpredictable change that could come at your business.
It's not just that these things can or might change. The reality is they simply do. And the sooner we accept that and plan to live effectively in a world where things are constantly changing, the better off we are. Having a more traditional MDM that's very tied into the idea of a set schema, for example, that's not going to change, or a single primary source of truth for certain master data or other types of data. That is the traditional approach, but it's always been wrong. And it's just maybe the case today that that's more apparent and more accelerated because of the vast variety of systems that a modern enterprise interacts with. But even a couple of decades ago, where systems were maybe a bit more monolithic, I think organizations still suffered from having that point of view. If it takes a very long time to build a very static sort of interface for your master data, by the time it's built, it's going to be out of date and it's going to be wrong. One thing that I promote within SpringWorks is really to get away from this idea of a golden record, because somehow a golden record implies that you work to achieve something that's correct, and then it's sort of beautiful and set in gold. Now you just sit back and you admire it. And instead, we talk more about a mosaic record that's constantly changing. It's made up of these little bits of information that hopefully are improving over time, because if you don't pay attention to them, they can also degrade over time. But the more you work to improve the mosaic record, the more you enrich it by adding to it. And so your tiles get to be smaller and more precise, and that gives you, your picture comes into focus. But if you think of it ever as being static, you're just fooling yourself. And so having an MDM and customer platform that's built really from the ground up to accommodate that, it's just a world of difference. And if you look at the other technologies that we have in our enterprise stack, they've moved in that direction as well. I mean, we really have a true DevOps, data ops implementation, and CluedIn fits into that nicely, which allows us to have the speed and flexibility to react to what's needed by any modern business, but especially when one is taking a digital first approach. It's all about quickly coming up with use cases, putting those into the ecosystem, and seeing the result and testing the results, and then being able to pivot and take advantage of those things.
The analogy I always like to use is so familiar, and I think this is what makes CluedIn and SpringWorks the partnership so strong, is because we are thinking on this quite different level. And the analogy we use here is that if you're in a meeting room and you ask, where is Lego headquartered? And you've got 10 people in the room, and everybody stands up and says, it's in Billund in Denmark. You are filled with this level of confidence in the use of that answer. But you know what? It could change the next day. So there's this temporal factor to it. But as soon as you ask the same question and half the room say Sweden and some people say Denmark and some people say Finland, suddenly that data has a trust issue. And the way that you would go about rectifying that is probably looking to some official registries, looking for more sources of input from people to get that vote of the crowd. So you are right. This golden record concept is probably giving this misconception that you'll get to this point and then the data can be static. And back to our key talking point we had before of this unpredictable change, data will change underneath you. Your ability to react and also be prepared for that is key. What we've got in place now is a foundation of data to be able to accelerate in innovation. Talk me through some of the exciting things you've got planned for the future. What's the kind of ideas spinning around in your head of, how you can use your customer data to build a better experience for your customers, how you might be, using your product transactional inventory data to, operationalize efficiencies and things like this.
Because we are pre-commercial, a large part of our focus right now really is in terms of understanding our market and enabling, when we do go commercial, our operations team to have the best, most up-to-date information that they can. And so understanding those relationships between HCPs or healthcare professionals and the organizations that they work for, again, in a changing world. And Tim, sometimes it's not just the nature of the change in the data itself. It's a question of who's asking and why are they asking also, right? Part of the notion is really about internal change as well. So we may map out, say, affiliations between a healthcare professional and the primary organization that they work with or they work for. But a doctor, may work with a half a dozen different organizations. And even that notion of which organization is primary for them may depend on the who is asking and in what context you're asking. It may be that the vast majority of the work that they do is with one hospital, but in our case, where we address rare disease, we may be more interested in the maybe what is not the largest volume of the work that they do, but a very specific type of work that they do with one organization or another. So having a foundation that allows us to gain those insights and to provide those insights near real time to our commercial operations staff is really really helpful. And ultimately, the reason that we want to do that is, again, serving a rare disease market or rare cancer. We really want to find those patients not only so that we can be successful as a business, but our mission really is to help patients who are underserved. Um, and in many cases, the reason they're underserved is because they're misdiagnosed. And the more we can find the right people to communicate to, it not only allows us to be able to sell our product, but allows us to help to educate patients and caregivers so that people maybe do get diagnosed correctly the first time, and they can avoid, years of pain and suffering because they're getting treated in a way that's not appropriate for the disease that they have.
I mean, it cannot be understated that behind this technical data foundation, there's some fantastical ethical and kind of moral elements to this story as well. So there's these knock-on effects that, in the end, patients will benefit as well, which is just another reason why this is such a great story. Eric, for anyone that's listening that is a data leader and they're looking at your story and they are not only inspired by what you've done, but what really the opportunities that you have in front of you as well, what would you say to the data leaders coming to you about, and what advice would you give about, the benefits of what you've done there at SpringWorks?
I think to me, what's exciting about our space right now is the level of change and innovation that's going on. If you look at modern data platforms and how we're able to work in those platforms today, um, again, in some ways, I think that when it comes to sort of traditional data warehousing and BI and so on, there was a lag. And I think with the tools that we have today across the board, whether it's in that BI space or master data management or data management altogether, um, the new tools and the changes that have come about today really, we're in a different world than we were maybe 10 years ago. And that has to do with the way that we actually engage with and process and clean and make the data available. It even extends into the world of metadata and being able to understand the data as well. I find very much these days that I'm not simply thinking about the technology and being able to produce the best, cleanest data and with technology that allows us to operationalize that, but it's really looking at the whole picture so that the resources that we have within the company understand the data that we have, understand how to use it, and that we take full advantage of it. You can build wonderful, clean, well operating data platforms, and if your organization doesn't understand that you've built it and how to take advantage of it, then you're not really achieving everything that you can achieve also. So I guess I would say in a nutshell, it's a combination of embracing the latest technologies that we have, but then also really trying to have this holistic view of marrying the technology together with the user base that you have within your company so you can take full advantage of it.
Well, wrapping things up, Eric, I mean, of course, absolute pleasure to spend the last few minutes with you. But as a last question, let's talk through, in your mind, what are some of the exciting things about the partnership between CluedIn and SpringWorks that you're looking forward to? Some aspirations for, things that we're going to achieve together as a partnership over the next few years.
Sure. In many ways, we're really at the beginning of our data journey. We've been focused on building out the fundamentals. We still have a bit of that to do, but especially as we launch as a commercial entity, we step into a whole new world of being able to now collect information on what's actually happening with our product and with our customers, with our HCPs and our patients. And that's going to allow us to understand, are we actually being successful? Are we helping patients? And it's for us, it's a whole additional set of data sources that we'll be bringing in. But it also really for us is going to help to fill out that universe of data that we have to get a much fuller picture of what's going on, and that's just super exciting. It's taking things again from the basics now to being able to fill them out and expand and have a much broader picture of what's going on in our space and in our marketplace and with the patients and the customers that we care about. And being able to do that on a platform like we have, it's the flexibility and the ability to enrich the data as we bring on those new sources is just very, very exciting. It's if we weren't able to tie those new data sources effectively together with the fundamentals that we built, we'd have a fragmented picture. But I'm very, very confident that we're going to be able to build this unified picture of a patient journey across time, which again helps us to identify new people that we can help, and that's just very, very exciting. And that's for us just in one area with one therapy that we have. We have many other coming through the pipeline, and we hope to be able to do this better and better and get smarter at it, and not only repeat the process but to do it again in the future. And for us, CluedIn, both as a technology and as a company that we partner with, is key to that. We are very appreciative of the success and the help that we've had working with CluedIn, and I know that will just continue to improve in the future. So
Perfect. Thank you, Eric.